1. The Clockwork Swan. An 18th century mechanical bird that swims through a silver river, preening and glinting. A miracle of gears masquerading as grace. A quiet poem for you, because it's late. Tick, glide, tick, glide. 1,000 springs and one tired bird. Its river shines like mercury, but the water is made of lies. Ah, my dear, the Clockwork Swan. Let me tell you about her while you're still awake enough to care, yet just sleepy enough to listen. She lives somewhere in the bowels of the Bowes Museum in northern England, but she wasn't born there. No, she was dreamed into existence by the fingers of John Joseph Merlin, who wore roller skates to his own parties and broke clocks on purpose. But we'll get to that another night, and the goldsmith James Cox's men who couldn't leave well enough alone. In 1773 they made her a swan of solid silver, posed with its long neck arched and its head half dipped as though pausing between thoughts. When you wind her, 100 hidden gears wake from their coma and she begins to move across a mirrored table, gliding through her own reflection as though through a river of mercury. Along the way, she turns her head, nips at her wings, fluffs imaginary feathers you can't see. People fainted when they saw it. Ladies clasped their hands to their throats, and gentlemen muttered darkly about blasphemy. And Merlin, he just smiled like a man who'd caught God napping and stolen the blueprint. You might think this is all very charming. An automaton, a toy, a harmless fragment of genius wrapped in silver leaf. But there is something wearying about her if you watch too long, because of what she doesn't do. She doesn't look at you. She never looks at you. She's alive enough to make you forget she's not, and dead enough to remind you she is. Let me tell you a secret. They say she used to do more. That in her early years she reached her beak down into the mirrored river and plucked a little silver fish clean out of it, swallowed it whole with a click that rattled the room. But she doesn't anymore. Somewhere along the centuries she forgot how, or decided not to. I've stood before her myself, on a grey Tuesday when I should have been at work. I pressed my forehead to the glass and tried to hear the faintest whir of her gears over the clamour of bored tourists. And it struck me then the saddest thing, her river doesn't move. She swims and preens and pecks at nothing, and the river beneath her is only glass, flat and cold and waiting. They say you can see her face if you lean just right into the reflection, not the swan's face. No, but yours. Except your eyes will look older in the glass, tired in a way you didn't expect, as though the swan borrowed a little of you while you weren't paying attention, like it borrows everything else. Oh, and here's a drowsy little thought to cradle you into sleep if you're ever alone in the museum, late at night, and the guards are gone. They say you can still hear her swimming. Not ticking. No. Swimming. A long hush of gears and breath in the dark. If you're very unlucky, you might even hear the sound of that silver fish coming back wriggling faintly on the mirrored river, waiting to be caught again. And if she ever does look up, if she ever meets your eyes, well, you'll understand why Merlin wore skates to flee his own creations. Good night. Sleep lightly. The swan is still awake. 2. The Tower of Silence. A circular stone platform where the dead are left to be eaten by vultures. A testament to human ingenuity and human fear. Equal parts madness and genius. A sigh, because this one is heavy. Above us the sun, always prying. Below us the earth, always waiting. And here, between them, a tower of stone, teeth, and quiet wings. Oh, yes, the Tower of Silence. How could we not talk about that? Somewhere, usually atop a wind-blown hill in India or Iran, a perfect circle of stone rises above the city, empty at its centre, ringed by low walls and bare of adornment. These are called dakmas, though to say their name aloud after dark is considered impolite. The purpose, well, here's the thing: the earth, the water, the fire, all sacred. Too sacred to sully with a corpse. To bury a body in the ground would pollute it. To cremate it would ruin the fire. Even sinking it into the water would offend the living streams. And so, centuries ago, the Zoroastrians decided to outwit the whole cycle. Build a stone tower, carry the dead up to its bare platform, lay them down in neat, concentric rows, and leave them there exposed to the sun, the wind, and the waiting vultures. If you stand at the base, and I have, you can hear the air hum with wings. A faint sound like sheets being shaken. The birds circle and circle, never quite silent, never quite seen. I was told that once the bones have been stripped clean, and oh, they will be stripped, they are gathered and swept into a dry pit at the centre of the circle, where they crumble quietly into dust. Nothing buried, nothing burned, nothing spoiled. A strange kind of genius, isn't it? A way to let the body go without disturbing a single element of the world. But here's where it gets unsettling. It's said the vultures remember. The same birds who fed on your grandfather will descend when it is your turn. And in that way, you are family, carried away by wings that have known your blood for generations. There's a story they tell about one tower, that the wind on certain nights carries the sound of whispering from the bones at the centre. Just whispers, nothing more. Some say it's the dead themselves, asking for one last chance to speak. Others say it's just the vultures, bickering over scraps of memory. I'll admit, when I climbed to the base of one tower, I didn't dare go farther. The heat of the stone was unbearable. The air smelled of iron and salt, and something I don't care to name. The guide pointed up and said, "If you listen too long, you won't come down the same." And here's the part you won't read in any guidebook if you lie on your back below the tower and stare into the sky just before dawn. You'll see the birds descend not haphazard, but in perfect, practiced spirals. You'll see the sun catch the edges of their feathers until they look like little knives of light. And for just a second you'll feel what it's like to be both food and sky, both madness and genius, and somehow both are a kind of peace. So, if you dream tonight of circles, endless circles and black wings slicing through a white sky, don't be afraid. It only means they remember you. Good night. Don't look up too long. 3. The Whispering Gallery. A domed chamber where sound clings to the walls and carries your secrets farther than you ever intended. A drowsy confession for you, whispered into the dark. Some rooms keep what you say. Some rooms send it circling forever. And some rooms whisper back. Let me tell you about the Whispering Gallery. It isn't just one. There are dozens scattered across the globe in St. Paul's Cathedral in London, in the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C., and in smaller, stranger places you'll never find unless you're lost enough to deserve it. A whispering gallery is usually a perfect circle or ellipse, a curved space under a dome or arch. If you stand at one edge and speak just a murmur, no louder than the brush of fabric on skin, your words hug the wall and glide around the circumference, clear as bells, until they find the ear of someone standing impossibly far away. It feels like magic the first time. You stand there, lips barely moving, and hear your own voice arrive on the other side of the world. Some of the galleries are big enough that the person on the far end appears no bigger than a thumb. And yet there it is, your little secret, carried along the stone like it belongs there. I remember standing in St. Paul's myself. I pressed my lips close to the cool marble wall and muttered something I didn't want anyone to hear, and then, from across the vast yawning curve, my own voice came slinking back to me, wearing a stranger's tone. Some say the effect is just physics, simple acoustics, a trick of curves and echoes. But if you stand there long enough and I have you begin to suspect the walls are listening. I met an old caretaker at one such gallery who claimed he heard more than whispers. Said late at night the walls carried things no one in the room had said. Confessions. Please. A laugh that didn't belong to anyone present. He told me, every gallery has a few words stuck in it that never find a home. There's even a story of a boy who whispered his name into the gallery and waited. And when the sound came back, it wasn't his name anymore. If you ever find yourself in such a place, let me offer some weary advice. Don't test it too much. Don't tell it anything you'd mind hearing again later. Don't whisper into it if you can't bear for the world or worse. The walls to know what you said. And if, while you're there, you hear a voice call your name, faint and patient from the other side, and you're sure you didn't speak, don't answer. Good night. Speak softly. 4. The room full of clocks. A chamber where hundreds of clocks tick at once, none of them keeping quite the same time, each a little more awake than you'd like. Let me paint it for you because I'm too tired to explain. 1,000 tiny hearts, 1,000 tiny teeth, all of them counting, none of them agreeing. You stand in the middle and realize you are late for everything. The first time I walked into a room full of clocks was in Prague, down a crooked alley that smelled of roasted chestnuts and rain. The shopkeeper led me through a curtain of beads and into a back room where every wall and much of the ceiling was covered in clocks. They were everywhere, wooden cuckoos with chipped paint, gilded pocket watches, mantle clocks squatting on sagging shelves, towering grandfather clocks with pendulums swinging like blades. Even a few clocks whose faces were blank except for a single, unblinking black dot. They all ticked. Of course they did. But none of them ticked quite the same. The sound was a chaotic symphony, a storm of seconds colliding in the air. You'd swear you could feel the rhythm inside your teeth if you stayed long enough. And God help you if you closed your eyes because you'd still hear it. Some say it's beautiful, a testament to human ingenuity. A room that holds centuries of time in its brittle hands. Others say it's unbearable. I met a watchmaker who told me it was neither. Said clocks don't care about you. Said you're just a passing inconvenience to them. Said he'd seen clocks stop for people they didn't like. Start early for people they did. There's an old superstition that if you stand in the center of such a room and hold perfectly still, You can find the one clock that keeps your time, the one that knows exactly how much you have left. People say if you find it, you can take it home and live as long as it runs. But here's the thing, you don't get to wind it yourself. When I stood there in the middle of that room, I swear one of the clocks started ticking faster the longer I stared at it. Faster and faster, until I had to leave. Here's my advice if you ever find yourself in a room like that. Don't check the time. Don't count. Don't try to match your breath to the ticks. And if as you're leaving you hear one clock stop completely, and the silence feels like a hand closing around your shoulder, don't look back. Good night. Sleep while you still can. 5. The Library of Forgotten Books. A quiet, endless hall of shelves filled with books no one remembers writing, or reading, or dreaming about at all. A little verse to soften the edges of this one. Spines like teeth, pages like dust, stories too tired to tell themselves, but they still watch you when you walk between them. Ah, yes, the Library of Forgotten Books. One of my favourites, or perhaps one of my oldest enemies. You see, there are libraries in this world that are easy to find: municipal, university, private, public, all labelled and catalogued and polite. But the Library of Forgotten Books isn't like that. It's quieter, hungrier. It lives in the cracks of cities, in corners that smell faintly of rain and disuse. I first stumbled into it in a city I won't name after a very long walk down a very short alley. The door was plain wood, no handle, no bell, inside silence thick enough to chew. The books were peculiar. None of the titles made sense, no familiar authors. Some were written in alphabets I didn't recognize, and others in handwriting that changed halfway down the page. Some books refused to open at all, their pages stuck together with what looked like sleep. There's a legend, of course, there is, that every book in that place was once begun by someone who abandoned it. Scribbled dreams, unfinished stories, unsent letters, all gathered into one impossible archive, eh? Some say the books write themselves if you linger too long, that they notice you, that they add you to their pages. I met a custodian there once, or someone who claimed to be. He wore a threadbare suit and had ink-stained fingers. He warned me not to touch the books with gold lettering. Those, he said, his voice thin as parchment, are still hungry, and yet I couldn't help myself. I opened a slim little volume with no title at all and found a story I almost remembered living. The last line had my name in it, spelled wrong, but still mine. If you go, and you will, eventually be gentle. Don't speak too loudly. Don't run your hands along the spines unless you mean it. And if a book ever falls from the shelf and opens to a page you don't like, don't read it aloud. And if, when you wake, you find paper dust on your hands and the faint taste of ink in your mouth, close your eyes. You're already on the shelf. Good night. Sleep unread. 6. The Man Who Counted the Stars. A weary mathematician who tried to name every star in the sky and learned something terrible halfway through. A murmured rhyme for sleepless listeners. 1 for sorrow, 2 for spite, 3 for madness, 4 for night, 5 and 6 and 7, and then you start over. And again. Ah, this poor bastard. the man who counted the stars. He lived, allegedly, in the late 19th century, though. I suspect he's been living longer than that and decided one sleepless evening that he would not just map the stars, not just chart them, but give each one a proper name, his own names, one by one. Some say his name was Edouard, others say Etienne, but all accounts agree he wore a hat with a broken feather and had a pocket watch that ticked backwards. Not that it matters. The sky cared little for his names. At first, it must have seemed romantic, don't you think, sitting out under the sky every night with a notebook and a telescope, whispering names into the quiet. This one is Agatha. This one is Basil. This one is little Henry with his crooked smile. But the problem is, and it always is, there are more stars than there are names. And worse, the more he named, the more he saw. At first it was dozens, then hundreds, then thousands, then millions. Then when his pencil broke and his eyes bled and his fingers cramped, he began to see ones that weren't supposed to be there at all. Faint stars moving where no stars should move. I met a woman in Marseille who claimed to have seen one of his notebooks. Said the last few pages were full of names you couldn't pronounce, not because they were foreign, but because they were wrong. The kind of syllables that feel like teeth breaking in your mouth. There's a folk tale whispered by astronomers who drink too much, that if you lie under the right patch of sky and start naming what you see, the stars will notice you. And if you keep naming them long enough, one of them will name you back. I've tried it once, just to see. The stars I named that night, they're still there, and sometimes, when I close my eyes, I feel them staring back. So, here's my advice, look, if you must, but don't count, don't name, don't write anything down, just let them shine quiet, indifferent, distant. And if, when you wake, you find a name written in the frost on your window, one you don't remember giving or being given, don't say it aloud. Good night. Sleep uncounted. 7. The bridge that waits. A crooked span of stone and iron that seems to grow longer the farther you walk, as though it has no intention of letting you reach the other side. A weary couplet for weary feet. Step by step, the stones extend, and you forget there was an end. The bridge that waits isn't on any map. Not really. It looks normal at first, a little arch over a little river. Maybe in a park, maybe between two sleepy streets. Some say it's wood, some say it's stone, but all agree that once you're on it, it remembers you. I stumbled onto it myself, years ago, in a fog so thick the air tasted like wet paper. I stepped onto the bridge 2, 3, 4 strides, expecting to be across in seconds, but the stones kept coming. The fog thickened, the opposite bank retreated, shy and small, until I could barely see it at all. Some say the bridge is cursed, built over a river too ancient to remember itself. Others say it's alive, a sly old thing that likes company but hates letting go. I once met a man who claimed to have walked it for 3 nights straight. He said he stopped counting his steps after the first day. Said he started hearing footsteps behind him. Said the footsteps never caught up, but never fell behind either. If you're foolish enough to turn around on the bridge that waits, you may notice the stones behind you have changed. Longer, thinner, or worse, softer. Here's my advice if you find yourself on such a bridge. Don't run. Don't shout. Don't count the steps. Just walk. Keep your hands to your sides. Keep your eyes forward. And don't look down. And if when you wake your legs ache as though you'd walked all night, and your shoes are damp with river water you don't remember crossings, you didn't make it off. Good night, sleep still. 8. The cage with no door. A delicate lattice of iron and light, large enough to stand inside with no entrance. Yet something is already in there. A small riddle for the drowsy. What holds nothing but refuses to be empty, what cannot open but still closes around you. It's the cage with no door. You'll know it when you see it. Usually it appears in quiet places, a forgotten square at dawn, a clearing in a forest, a corner of some vast cathedral where the stones feel a little too warm. It stands there politely. A cage. Bars thin as bone, shadows between them darker than they should be, and no door. I found one, once, in Venice at the end of a long alley that smelled of candle wax and seawater. There it stood, gleaming faintly in the moonlight, with something inside it, a shape I couldn't quite name. Some say it's a work of art, a folly, some ambitious sculptor's commentary on futility, but others say it isn't a cage at all, that the bars are there to keep you out, not keep it in, not. I once met a woman who claimed she touched one of the bars and felt her fingers go numb, said she dreamed afterward of walking in circles, always with the faintest echo of footsteps inside the cage, matching her pace. If you're brave enough to get close, you might feel it hum. You might notice the air inside is thicker. You might even see something shift, just for an instant, as though acknowledging you. Here's my advice: don't reach between the bars. Don't lean too close. Don't peer at it sideways trying to find the seam. And if, when you wake, you find faint iron marks around your wrists and a taste of salt in your mouth, it's already open. Good night, sleep free. 9. The mirror that forgets you. A pane of glass that, after too many glances, decides it has better things to reflect. A sleepy little lament. I looked at you and you looked away, but you were me. Weren't you? Weren't you? Oh, yes. The mirror that forgets you. I wish I could say I'd only heard stories, but no. It starts like any other mirror. You catch your reflection out of habit, fixing your hair, checking your teeth, that little ritual before bed. But over time, if you stare too often, too long, you'll notice something subtle. It begins with your eyes. Your reflection's gaze will slide just a breath to the left or right, as though bored. The next time, your mouth is closed when you're sure it should have been open. Later still, it stops bothering to match you at all. I first met mine in a cramped flat with a cracked ceiling. The mirror above the sink had always been my silent little friend. But one night, as I leaned in close to examine some imagined flaw in my face, the figure on the other side didn't lean. It simply stood there, straight, patient, waiting. Some say it's nothing fatigue, paranoia, stress, but others say mirrors grow tired of the same soul peering through them every day, that they decide, at some point, they'd rather reflect someone else. I met a man who claimed his mirror forgot him completely, said when he walked past it one morning, it simply showed the room behind him empty and stayed that way. If you're brave or foolish enough to test it, Try this stand in front of the mirror at dusk. Stare into your own eyes for a full minute without blinking. Watch the edges of your face. You may notice the glass dim, the figure grow, distracted. Here's my advice if it happens to you. Don't tap the glass. Don't demand it to remember you. And if when you wake the mirror shows someone else standing in your clothes, with your hair, but just a little too still, don't wave. Good night. Sleep unreflected. 10. The lantern that burns cold. A small, glowing light that casts no heat and seems to shiver in your hands, as though alive and afraid of you. A drowsy little poem. A flame that freezes fingers. A light that chills the air. You think you've caught it, but it's caught you first. I held it once, just once. It was given to me by a man on a staircase. He had a scarf wrapped 3 times around his throat and a voice that rasped like dead leaves. He pressed it into my palms without meeting my eyes and whispered, "Don't drop it. Don't ever let it go out." At first, it looks harmless, just a lantern, brass and glass, faintly glowing from within. But when you touch it, the cold seeps up your arms. Your breath fogs. The warmth of your skin feels suddenly very far away. Some say it's nothing but a trick dry ice, phosphorescence, some ingenious gadget, but others say the flame burns with something older than fire, that it's what happens when light and shadow strike a bargain no one else was supposed to see. I met a woman who claimed she carried her cold lantern through the woods every winter, said it showed her paths no one else could find, said the frostbite was worth it. If you dare to look closely, you might see the tiny flame inside doesn't flicker like a flame at all, it curls. It writhes. It dances with shapes you can almost recognize. Here's my advice, don't blow on it. Don't try to warm it. Don't set it down where it can roll away. And if, when you wake, your fingertips are blue, and your breath hangs in the air despite the summer heat, it's still burning. Good night. Sleep warm. 11. The door that follows you. A plain, unremarkable door that appears wherever you go, just close enough to see, never quite where it belongs. A murmured riddle for the sleepy. When you walk, it waits. When you stop, it leans. When you knock, you're home already. The first time I saw it was in a train station tucked between 2 vending machines, painted a soft, forgettable beige. No handle, no sign, just a door. The second time was at the park, propped between 2 trees like a misplaced joke. The third time, well, by then I understood. Some say the door that follows you is nothing a trick of memory, some architectural déjà vu, but others say it's yours, made for you. That once it notices you noticing it, it stays. I met a man once who claimed to have opened his, said it smelled like bread baking and snow melting at once, said the floor beyond it felt wrong, said he closed it quickly, but it never quite forgave him for that. If you're brave enough to try, lean close when you see it next. Press your ear to the wood. You might hear something faint on the other side music, perhaps, or your own heartbeat, doubled and distorted. Here's my advice, don't knock unless you mean to go through. Don't speak to it unless you know what you'll say when it answers. And if, when you wake, the door is standing at the foot of your bed, silent and patient, paint faintly peeling, you've already chosen. Good night. Sleep behind it. 12. The staircase that descends too far. A spiral of steps that seems normal at first, until you realise you've been walking down for longer than you could possibly walk. A tired little rhyme for weary feet. Round and round and round and more. But where's the ground? Where is the floor? It begins the way all staircases do ordinary. A little scuffed, a little steep, a few flickering lights overhead. You step down, thinking of nothing in particular, but after 20 steps, after 50, after 100, you notice you're still going. I first found mine in a library basement, a stone stair with a brass rail, spiralling away from the noise of the street. By the time I realised how far I'd come, the light above had vanished. Some say it's just an illusion, a trick of architecture, vertigo, but others say there are places where the earth yawns deeper than we deserve to know, and the staircases are the only polite way down. I met a woman who walked hers for 3 nights. She said the air got warmer the lower she went. Said she heard soft laughter echoing ahead of her. Said she never reached the bottom. If you ever feel the steps growing softer, or hear them counting themselves, or feel the walls breathe just slightly when you brush them, turn around. Here's my advice: don't run, don't jump, don't test how deep it really is. And if when you wake the soles of your feet are sore, and you find grit under your nails that glitters faintly in the dark, you didn't climb back up. Good night, sleep above. 13. The bell that rings without a rope. A small bronze bell that chimes on its own politely, mournfully, and always just before something changes. A drowsy little couplet. The bell that calls, though no one pulls. The sound that waits inside your skull. It's never very loud, never urgent, just enough to stop you mid-thought, mid-breath, mid-step. I first heard mine in a chapel that hadn't seen a priest in decades. It hung crooked from a beam, cobwebbed and cracked. Yet it rang just once while I stood there, hands in my pockets, trying to feel nothing at all. Some say it's just wind. Some say it's nothing at all, the echo of an old prayer, a trick of nerves. But others say the bell knows you're there, knows what you've carried, knows what's waiting when you leave. I met a man who wore a little bell around his neck. Said it rang on its own, sometimes even in sleep. Said it kept him awake. Said he deserved it. If you ever hear it just once, don't look for it. Don't try to catch it swinging. Don't cover your ears. You might find the sound lingering anyway, faint as a heartbeat. Here's my advice: if it rings twice, leave. If it rings 3 times, run. And if when you wake the air still shivers faintly with the sound, and your tongue tastes of copper, you didn't move fast enough. Good night. Sleep through it. 14. The map with no compass. A tattered sheet of parchment full of roads, rivers, and cities, but none of them lead where you think they should. A sleepy riddle from a dusty corner. What shows you where to go, but never lets you arrive? The first time I found such a map, it was folded into the back of a drawer, smelling faintly of dust and lemon oil. The lines were beautiful, delicate, as veins, black ink winding across pale yellow paper. A few scattered symbols I couldn't quite recognize. A handful of names that felt familiar but wrong. Naturally, I followed it. Some say these maps are mistakes. Cartographers drunk on their own craft, making art instead of sense. But others say they're not maps at all. They're invitations, guides to places that don't like being found. I met a woman who said she once traced hers all the way to the edge of a city she didn't know existed. Said she heard laughter echoing from alleys too narrow to walk down. Said she's been trying to get back ever since. If you ever hold one in your hands, you may notice the ink feels warm. You may see a river appear where there wasn't one before. You may feel it pulse faintly against your skin when you point to a crossroads. Here's my advice, don't follow it at night. Don't try to fold it smaller than it wants to be. And don't ever write your own name on it. And if when you wake you find creases in your fingertips shaped like roads, and your shoes stained with dust that doesn't match the ground, you're still on it. Good night. Sleep here. 15. The candle that won't go out. A thin, stubborn flame that keeps burning no matter how hard you blow, as though it has more to say than you do. A drowsy rhyme for a sleepless flame. Blow once, it bows, blow twice, it bends, blow thrice, and it begins to grin. Ah, the candle that won't go out. I still have mine somewhere, still burning, I suppose. It seems ordinary at first, just a little wax taper, plain wick, nothing remarkable, but light it and you'll see. The flame is strange, not quite yellow, not quite blue, something in between, with edges that blur if you stare too long. I found mine in a box of old books, nestled in tissue paper like a sleeping baby bird. A note underneath read, "For emergencies only, and even then, think twice." Some say it's just clever chemistry, magnesium or some other trick, but others say it's not a candle at all, that it's a promise, a quiet witness to every dark thing you've done in its light. I met a man who claimed his had burned for 19 years, said he tried everything water, wind, even burying it, still there when he came back. If you hold your hand near it, you may feel its warmth draw something out of you. Stories you didn't want to tell, memories you didn't mean to keep. If you press your lips to it, the flame will lean toward you as though to kiss you back. Here's my advice, don't light it unless you have to. Don't stare too long. And if when you wake you see faint ash on your fingertips and feel a warmth in the room you didn't leave on, it's still burning. Good night. Sleep in the dark. 16. The window that opens inward. A pane of glass that swings into the room farther and farther until it's no longer a window at all. A tired little verse just for you. The frame is thin. The glass is clear. It opens wide to what's already here. It seems harmless at first. Just a window, perhaps a little stiff on its hinges, perhaps a little older than it looks. But then you notice when you open it, it doesn't stop. It keeps swinging, farther than it should, farther than the wall allows, farther than your own sense of what's real can tolerate. I first saw one in an attic, high above a quiet street. I unlocked the latch, pushed gently, and the pane folded inward, over and over, wider and wider, until the sky outside vanished entirely. Some say it's a flaw in the design, an optical illusion, but others say the window that opens inward doesn't lead to the outside at all, that it leads somewhere much closer, much stranger. I met a woman who claimed she climbed through hers, said she walked for hours through rooms just like her own, but emptier, said she never found her way back, said she still watches herself sleep from the other side. If you lean too close, you may notice the glass feels warm. You may hear faint laughter drifting from beyond. You may see shapes moving in a world that looks like yours, but isn't. Here's my advice, don't open it more than once. Don't step through, and don't whatever you do close it while it's still opening. And if when you wake you find a faint breeze in the room, smelling of things you can't name, you already did. Good night. Sleep with it shut. 17. The chair that rocks itself. A faded wooden rocker that moves gently back and forth even when no one's sitting in it, or maybe especially then. A half-asleep rhyme for the half-asleep. Back and forth and back again. Count your breaths from 10 to 10. When it stops, don't watch too long. Ah, yes. The chair that rocks itself. I still hear it sometimes faintly when the house is too quiet. At first, you tell yourself it's nothing. A draft. A slant in the floorboards. But the rhythm is too steady, too deliberate. And when you listen, really listen, you hear it creak like a metronome. Slow, certain. I first saw mine in a cottage by the sea, pushed into a corner by the window. I tried to ignore it at first, but when I glanced back, it was already moving. Small arcs, each a little longer than the last. Some say it's just wood loosening with age. Others say it's a seat reserved for someone who hasn't quite left yet. A quiet visitor who prefers to arrive after dark. I met a man who claimed he left a glass of milk by his every night. Said the chair never rocked too fast that way. Said the one time he forgot. He woke up to find it halfway across the room, still moving. If you sit in it yourself, you may feel a faint warmth already waiting for you. You may hear a breath not yours in the hush between creaks. You may feel it sway just slightly harder when you try to stand. Here's my advice, don't sit if you don't mean to stay. Don't touch the arms. Don't stop it from moving. And if when you wake the chair has turned to face your bed, still rocking, faint and patient, close your eyes. Good night, sleep still. 18. The clock tower with no hands. A towering face of stone and gears. Its dial bare, yet somehow it still knows exactly when to chime. A hushed little rhyme for you. Round and round the circle spins, but the hands are gone and the bell still sings. Ah, this one still rattles around in my head when the hour grows late. It rises above the rooftops like any ordinary clock tower stern. Proud, and just a little weary. But when you crane your neck to look closer, you see it, the great round face, immaculate and empty, and no hands. And yet, as the light fades, it begins to tick. You can hear it faint at first, like a heartbeat muffled by stone and then louder. And at exactly the right moment, the bell tolls, once, twice, always correct. I first saw one in a northern town where the fog didn't lift for weeks. I asked an old woman selling chestnuts about it. She laughed until she coughed and said, "That tower don't need hands, dear, it sees just fine." Some say it's just clever engineering, a hidden mechanism. But others say the tower doesn't measure our time at all, that it keeps track of something older, stranger, that it chimes not when we expect, but when it decides. I met a man who claimed the tower in his town rang only when someone dreamt of it, and that the louder you dreamed, the more it shook the ground beneath you. If you dare to stand beneath it, you may feel the air thicken just before the bell tolls. You may hear a faint whisper coil down from the empty dial. You may even feel the gears turning in your own chest. Here's my advice, don't count the chimes. Don't wait to see if they match the hour. Don't ask it what it's measuring. And if when you wake you find faint soot on your shoulders, and the faint taste of iron in your mouth, you were closer to the bell than you thought. Good night, sleep out of time. 19. The street that doubles back. A quiet, narrow lane that always seems to lead you back to where you started, though you're certain you never turned around. A murmured riddle for the restless. Step by step, the stones repeat. The air grows thin. The walls retreat. You walk and walk and walk, and the first time I found it, I wasn't even looking. It was just a shortcut between two busy avenues. The kind of charming little side street you imagine belongs to someone else's city. But halfway through, I noticed something. The same mailbox, the same graffiti, the same shuttered window, 3 times in a row. Some say it's a trick of the eye's fatigue, poor lighting, the mind looping under stress. But others say the street itself enjoys company and keeps you for as long as it likes. I met a woman who claimed she'd spent a year on hers before finding the way out. Said she wore through 2 pairs of shoes. Said she heard her own footsteps behind her after a while, always just a second too late. If you're foolish enough to try it, you might feel the stones shifting just slightly beneath your feet. You might smell bread baking somewhere far away. Though no windows are open, you might even hear faint laughter at the end of the block. Here's my advice: don't run. Don't call for help. Don't mark the walls, they'll just rearrange themselves. And if when you wake your socks are dusty, and your legs ache, and you find a scrap of paper in your pocket that reads simply, "Try again." Don't! Good night, sleep straight. 20. The book that writes itself. A heavy, cracked leather tome that grows thicker each time you open it, its pages already waiting for you to catch up. A sleepy couplet to set the mood. The pen is still, the ink is dry, but the story breathes when you close your eyes. I found mine on a shelf that shouldn't have existed. Wider than the wall, deeper than my reach. There it sat, fat, black, smelling of cedar and ash. When I opened it, I saw the first page already written my name, today's date, and the words, "You opened me." Some say it's a clever trick, a magical journal, a psychological experiment. But others say the book that writes itself isn't about you at all. You're just one of the stories it needs to tell. I met a man who claimed his book grew heavier every night he kept it. Said the pages began whispering to him as he fell asleep. Said one morning the words didn't stop at the margins anymore, they crept up his arms. If you're curious, you can open yours and watch. Watch as letters bloom across the paper like frost. You might see a scene you half remember. You might see something that hasn't happened yet. Here's my advice: don't read too far ahead. Don't try to skip to the end. And never ever write in it yourself. And if when you wake your fingertips are stained with ink, and your sheets are full of little black letters that scatter when you move, it's still writing. Good night. Sleep unwritten. 21. The watch that ticks faster when you sleep. A small pocket watch that seems ordinary until you realize it's sprinting through the hours while you dream. A drowsy rhyme to count down with. Tick, 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 gone. Dream too long and wake alone. The first time I held it, I thought it was broken. I wound it, set it carefully, tucked it under my pillow, and in the morning it was 5 hours ahead. The next morning 10. The morning after that a whole day. Some say it's just a trick of mechanics, a spring too tight, a gear too eager. But others say the watch doesn't keep your time at all. It keeps its own. I met a woman who wore hers around her neck. Said it used to tick along normally, until she fell asleep wearing it. Said it dragged her days away piece by piece. Said she started napping less and less until she just stopped. If you're brave enough to keep it overnight, you might hear the tick change as you drift faster, sharper, like a little heartbeat that knows more than you do. You might dream of hands spinning, of numbers blurring into strange symbols. Here's my advice, don't wind it too tight. Don't stare at it before bed. And if when you wake the sun is setting, but you only just closed your eyes, you slept through something important. Good night. Sleep slowly. 22. The doorbell that rings backward. A quiet chime that doesn't call someone in it calls something out. A whispered riddle for the weary. Ring once, and it answers before you. Ring twice, and it leaves before you know. It was on an ordinary house. One of those little cottages with ivy eating the walls and a gate that always sticks. But the doorbell was peculiar. I noticed it when I pressed it the first time, a chime that didn't come from inside the house at all, but from behind me. Some say it's just old wiring, but others say the doorbell that rings backward isn't a doorbell at all. It's a bell meant to wake whatever lives between the threshold and the dark. I met a man who claimed he rang one 3 times in a row. Said the sound crawled up his back. Said the door opened, but he never saw what walked out. If you're foolish enough to press it again, you might feel the air change a little warmer, a little heavier. You might hear footsteps fading behind you when you know no one passed. Here's my advice, don't press it more than once. Don't wait for the door to open. And if when you wake you hear faint knocking from the wrong side of your pillow, you rang too hard. Good night, sleep unheard. 23. The window that opens into the past. A pane of glass that shows the world outside, but never the one you left behind. A murmured little rhyme to lull you. Pull the latch, let it swing, watch the years drip from the sill. It looked like any other window. Grimy glass, a chipped wooden frame, a faint smell of dust and lilies. But when I pushed it open, the street outside wasn't mine. Some say it's a trick of memory, a window into your own imagination. But others say the window that opens into the past isn't yours at all. It shows whatever it wants, whenever it pleases. I met a woman who claimed she climbed through hers once. Said she stepped out into a city where gas lamps still burned, where horses pulled carts, where everyone she passed had eyes just a little too dark. She said it took her a year to find her way back. If you dare to open it, you might see familiar buildings, but their windows black and silent, or children you almost recognize playing on the cobblestones, or yourself but younger, or thinner, or smiling in a way you don't remember. Here's my advice, don't reach through, don't call out, don't wait too long watching. And if when you wake you find soot on your hands, and your breath fogs the glass in strange patterns you don't understand, don't open it again. Good night, sleep forward. 24. The key with no lock. A small, heavy thing that seems perfectly ordinary except nothing it touches will open. A little sigh disguised as a verse. Teeth of brass. But no door waits. A promise of something you'll never reach. It was left on my pillow once, a plain key, slightly tarnished, warm to the touch. I turned it over in my palm, certain it belonged to something important. A drawer, a chest, a door I'd forgotten. But no matter what lock I tried, it just stared back at me. Some say the key with no lock is nothing but a prank, some old superstition. But others say it's the beginning of something you haven't earned yet. That the lock comes later, and you won't like where it leads. I met a man who wore his around his neck. Said he'd been carrying it 20 years. Said he dreamed of doors, sometimes doors that opened for him but left everyone else outside. If you hold it just right, you might hear a faint click when you turn it in your hand. You might feel the air grow cooler. You might notice the walls lean ever so slightly toward you. Here's my advice, don't throw it away. Don't let anyone else hold it. And don't, whatever you do, force it. And if when you wake you find another key beside it, smaller and sharper, with your name etched faintly into the brass, you're almost ready. Good night. Sleep locked. 25. The mirror that shows tomorrow. A cold, polished surface that shivers faintly when you look into it and shows you what you wish you wouldn't know. A drowsy warning in verse. The glass will gleam. The glass will glow. But you may not like what it shows. It was just leaning against the wall when I found it tall, old, with a frame of black wood and a faint smell of rain. I looked into it expecting the usual, but the figure staring back wasn't quite me. Some say it's nothing a trick of light, of expectation, but others say the mirror that shows tomorrow doesn't care about what you expect. It only shows what it must. I met a woman who said she watched her own hair grey overnight in that glass. Said she saw the bruises before they came. Said she tried to shatter it, but it just blinked. If you're reckless enough to really look, you might notice the colours are slightly wrong. You might see yourself reaching for something you'd never dare to touch. You might even catch your reflection smiling after you've already stopped. Here's my advice. Don't ask it questions. Don't stare too long. And don't for heaven's sake write down what you see. And if when you wake the mirror is fogged with words you didn't write, faint and curling like smoke, don't read them. Good night. Sleep present. 26. The bed that remembers your dreams. A soft, quiet thing that sighs when you lie down and keeps your nights tucked into its seams. A gentle rhyme, too tired to finish. Lay your head, close your eyes. What you leave here never dies. At first it just feels comfortable. A little too comfortable. Perhaps as if it already knows the way your shoulder curls, the way your knees tuck, the way your breath slows. But after a few nights, you start to notice the pillow smells faintly of rain. Though it hasn't rained, the sheets are warm in places you don't remember lying. And in your dreams, you pick up exactly where you left off. Some say it's nothing muscle memory, the body's way of comforting itself. But others say the bed that remembers your dreams holds on to every single one, storing them in its fabric until they start slipping back into your waking life. I met a man who swore he woke one morning with feathers in his hair and sand under his nails, remnants of some long forgotten nightmare. If you run your fingers across the sheets before you sleep, you might feel little ridges like braille marking each dream, some smooth, some sharp. Here's my advice, don't try to read them. Don't ask the bed what it remembers. And don't under any circumstances sleep too long in the same spot. And if when you wake you find yourself finishing a sentence you started only in a dream, or standing somewhere you don't recognize, you slept too deeply. Good night. Sleep lightly. 27. The candle that screams when it burns. A narrow stick of wax that lights beautifully, but with every inch that melts, the sound grows louder. A weary verse to hush it. flicker and flame, hiss and howl. What you burn will remember you now. I lit mine without thinking. A cold night, a power cut, fingers fumbling for light, and then the softest scream. At first it was faint, like steam escaping, but the longer it burned, the more distinct it became. A high, brittle wail that vibrated in the ribs. Some say it's just a trick air trapped in the wax, imperfections catching fire, but others say the candle that screams carries voices of those who should never have been lit at all. I met a man who claimed he kept his burning for days, said he could almost make out words by the end, said he couldn't stop listening, said he still hears it, faintly, when he closes his eyes. If you dare to light it, you might see the flame lean sideways, as though reaching for you. You might smell something sweeter than wax. You might even hear your own name buried somewhere in the noise. Here's my advice, don't let it burn all the way down. Don't light more than one at a time. And if when you wake your ears are ringing and there's wax between your fingers you don't remember melting, blow it out! Good night, sleep in the dark. 28. The corridor that narrows behind you. A hallway that starts wide and welcoming, but the farther you walk, the less room it seems to leave. A breathless rhyme to guide you. Step soft, step straight, don't turn around. The walls are listening for that sound. It was just a passageway at first carpeted, lit with faint golden sconces, smelling faintly of soap and old wood. But halfway through, I noticed the air seemed thicker, the light dimmer, the carpet brushing both my shoulders at once. Some say it's nothing an optical illusion, an anxious mind playing tricks. But others say the corridor that narrows isn't about you at all. It's about what comes after you. I met a woman who swore she walked one for hours before she realized she could no longer lift her arms. Said the walls pressed so tight by the end she couldn't even scream. If you're foolish enough to try it, you may feel a faint pulse as the plaster. You may smell something sweet and sharp as it closes in. You may even hear faint laughter between the bricks. Here's my advice, don't stop moving. Don't scrape your hands along the walls. And don't, whatever you do, turn around. And if when you wake there are faint bruises along your ribs and dust clinging to your hair, and your shoulders ache from squeezing through something too small, you made it out. This time, good night, sleep wide. 29. The clock that eats its numbers. A little brass timepiece that ticks contentedly while its face grows blanker with every passing hour. A quiet little verse for the faint of heart. Tick by tick, it swallows whole, 1 through 12, then none at all. I bought it at a market stall, tucked between jars of buttons and chipped teacups. At first, nothing seemed strange, a pocket watch with a gentle tick and a golden sheen. But by the second night, the number 12 had vanished, just gone. The next day, 11. Some say it's just wear, or a trick of paint. But others say the clock that eats its numbers is counting down something you don't want to reach the end of. I met a man who said he once kept his under his pillow. Said by the time it finished swallowing the final digit, the air in the room tasted like copper. Said he buried it after that. If you dare to wind it, you may notice the hands moving faster than they should. You may feel the tick deep in your chest, even after you put it down. And when the last number disappears, you may hear something faint. A breath, a laugh. Here's my advice, don't watch it too closely. Don't try to mark the numbers back with pen, and don't whatever you do wear it to sleep. And if when you wake your own watch shows nothing at all on its face, just a smooth and empty circle, you're still being counted. Good night, sleep numbered. 30. The lantern that attracts shadows. A faintly glowing light that seems to brighten the dark, and yet the more it shines, the more shadows gather around it. A drowsy little poem for a drowsy little light. It glows, they grow. It burns, they turn. They gather closer, waiting their turn. I lit it once, just once, at the edge of a forest. It was beautiful at first. A pale green flame, soft and steady. That seemed to push the darkness back. But after a while, I realized the dark wasn't retreating. It was coming closer. Some say the lantern that attracts shadows was made by accident, an alchemist's little mistake. But others say it's bait, a lure for the things that live just beyond sight. I met a woman who carried hers through a canyon at night. Said she could hear whispers moving behind her. Said the shadows ahead grew teeth. If you hold it for long enough, you may feel the air cool at your back. You may see the shapes of the shadows grow longer than they should. You may even feel one brush the edge of your sleeve. Here's my advice, don't keep it lit too long. Don't stare into the flame. And don't, whatever you do, turn it around to see what's behind you. And if, when you wake, the corners of your room are a little darker than you remember, and the light in the lantern is still faintly glowing, it isn't finished yet. Good night, sleep unlit. 31. The curtain that breathes. A long swath of fabric hanging quiet until you notice it moving on its own. In and out, as though inhaling your quiet. A whispered verse for weary eyes. It sways, it waits, it pulls and sighs. And if you watch too long, it blinks. At first, you think it's just the breeze, a gentle, slow ripple of cloth in the corner of the room. But the air is still, and the window is closed. I first noticed mine in an attic bedroom with a single narrow window. It hung there pale and thin, and when the rest of the house was silent, it would swell outward, then sink, then swell again. Some say it's nothing air-trapped between the walls, but others say the curtain that breathes isn't moved by air at all, that it breathes you. I met a man who swore he began whispering his name one night, said he tore it down, burned it, and still heard it sighing in the walls. If you get close, you might feel it pull faintly at your skin. You might hear something soft in the fabric, a hush that sounds just like someone dreaming. Here's my advice, don't touch it. Don't lean too close. And don't, whatever you do, stand between it and the light. And if, when you wake, the curtain is wrapped around you, warm and damp, smelling faintly of sleep, don't struggle. Good night, sleep elsewhere. 32. The candle that casts no light. A stub of wax that burns dutifully, but leaves the room darker than before you lit it. A sleepy riddle for you, half gone already. What burns, yet blackens? What flickers, yet blinds? What shines, yet leaves you colder? It seemed harmless enough when I found it tucked in a little tin, faintly scented with something sweet. I struck a match, set it alight, and waited for the room to glow. But instead, the corners deepened, the walls retreated, and the shadows grew teeth. Some say the candle that casts no light is a mistake, a spell gone wrong. But others say it's meant to show you what you're not supposed to see. That the darkness it creates is full of everything you've ever left behind. I met a woman who used hers every night. Said she liked the quiet of it. Said she could hear her own thoughts better in that kind of dark, even when they weren't hers anymore. If you hold your hand over the flame, you won't feel heat. If you lean closer, you may see faint shapes flickering in the wick, sharp little outlines, reaching. Here's my advice, don't let it burn too low. Don't light it if you're alone. And don't, whatever you do, look directly into the smoke. And if when you wake you find black wax on your sheets and the faint taste of ashes on your tongue, you burned too long. Good night. Sleep bright. 33. The bedpost that counts. A tall, carved post at the corner of your bed with notches that seem to multiply each time you wake. A faint little verse, half counted. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Don't look too closely at the score. It was carved from dark wood, with swirling little details I never paid much attention to. At least, not at first. But after a few nights, I noticed the marks, thin little scratches, evenly spaced, and every morning, a new one. Some say it's nothing, a quirk of the grain, a trick of tired eyes. But others say the bedpost that counts is a quiet witness, a keeper of nights you've survived or nights you never quite finished. I met a man who wrapped his in cloth, said he couldn't bear to see the tally grow, said the night it ran out of room, he'd stop waking altogether. If you press your finger into one of the notches, you may feel it hum faintly. You may see the next mark already waiting faint, but inevitable. Here's my advice, don't count them aloud. Don't try to erase them. Don't watch the post while you fall asleep. And if when you wake the notches have reached the floor, and the wood smells faintly of smoke and sweat, don't lie back down. Good night. Sleep uncounted. 34. The door that opens too slowly. A simple door that creaks open when you push it, but somehow, impossibly, never seems to finish opening at all. A weary little rhyme, dragging itself along. It moves, it sighs, it leans, it waits, and what it hides just hesitates. It was painted a dull grey, nothing remarkable. The knob cold, but not unfriendly. I pushed it, expecting the usual soft protest of hinges, but it just kept moving, slowly, inch by inch, never enough to see what was behind it. Some say the door that opens too slowly is just warped wood, a tired frame, but others say it's reluctant, that it knows what you're asking, and it's still deciding whether or not you deserve the answer. I met a woman who leaned into hers for hours, said she felt warm air rushing through the crack, smelled something faintly sweet, faintly wrong, but it never opened all the way. If you peer through the gap, you may see something move just out of reach. If you press your ear to it, you might hear quiet breathing, so close you'd swear it was yours. Here's my advice, don't push too hard. Don't wedge your fingers into the crack. And don't, whatever you do, ask it to hurry. And if when you wake, the door has opened just a little more, and the room feels crowded, don't open your eyes. Good night. Sleep behind it. 35. The clock that tells the wrong story. A charming little desk clock that keeps perfect time, but the numbers tell a tale you'd rather not hear. A drowsy rhyme for an untrustworthy tick. Tick and tock and tick and lie. It counts your breaths instead of time. It was brass and glass, with little feet like curled toes. When I wound it and set it down, it ticked exactly as it should. but the numbers on the dial kept changing. At first, they only shifted a little, the hands pointing between 2 hours. The face faintly smudged with strange figures. Then words began to appear. Names. Places. Things I almost remembered doing. Some say the clock that tells the wrong story is just a prank, but others say it's a confession. A soft-spoken witness to every tiny thing you've done while the rest of the world wasn't watching. I met a man who smashed his with a hammer after it started spelling his name backward at midnight. Said he still heard it ticking from the shards. If you watch too long, you may see the hands start to trace scenes, tiny stories you wish you didn't recognize. If you close your eyes, you may still hear it whispering the next line. Here's my advice, don't wind it before bed. Don't count its ticks. Don't read aloud what it writes. And if, when you wake, the face is blank, but your fingertips are smudged with ink, it already finished. Good night. Sleep untold. 36. The blanket that weighs more at dawn. A thick quilt that feels light when you fall asleep and heavier, somehow, every hour until morning. A whispered little rhyme to carry the weight. Soft at dusk, stone by day. It gathers what you gave away. At first, it's perfect warm, gentle, forgiving. You curl under it and feel yourself sink. But then, sometime in the night, it starts to press back. By morning, your chest aches, your arms feel pinned, and the air seems thicker. Some say the blanket that weighs more at dawn is just the body noticing its own exhaustion. But others say it collects what you shed during sleep, your dreams, your doubts, the tiny pieces you lose when you stop paying attention. I met a woman who refused to sleep with hers anymore. Said it got so heavy she couldn't sit up one morning. Said she swears she heard it humming softly while it pinned her down. If you run your fingers along its edge before you close your eyes, you may feel the faint ridges seem swollen with memory, or something stranger. Here's my advice, don't fight it, don't thrash, don't let it know you've noticed. And if when you wake you find yourself an inch deeper in the mattress than the day before, and the quilt hums faintly when you try to stand, it isn't finished yet. Good night, sleep light. 37. The pillow that grows warm too quickly. A soft place to lay your head that seems to remember your body better than you remember it yourself, and grows warmer as you doze, as though it's thinking, a drowsy poem for the restless. Cool at first, then hot as breath, it keeps your secrets underneath. When you lie down, it feels perfect smooth, crisp, cool enough to make you sigh. But then, not 5 minutes later, it's already warm. Some say the pillow that grows warm too quickly is just your own heat returning to you. But others say it holds more than that, collects every word you whisper into it, and burns with the weight of what it hears. I met a man who said his started glowing faintly in the dark. Said he woke to find it nearly too hot to touch. Said it murmured his name once before dawn. If you press your cheek into it and listen, you might feel it pulse against your skin, faint but certain. You might hear faint words swimming beneath the fabric. Here's my advice, don't flip it over. Don't press your face too far in. Don't ask what it's been keeping warm all this time. And if, when you wake, the pillow is still hot and faintly damp, and you can't remember what you dreamt, don't ask. Good night, sleep cool. 38. The window that smells like rain. A pane of glass that carries the scent of a storm, even on the driest nights. A quiet rhyme to fog the glass. No clouds, no drop, no sky in sight, and yet it rains inside tonight. It catches you off guard at first. You lean close, half asleep, and there it is, that smell. Wet earth, sharp ozone, a hush that tastes like lightning. Some say the window that smells like rain is just condensation meeting tired nerves. But others say it remembers every storm it's ever seen and whispers them back when you least expect it. I met a woman who claimed hers left streaks of water on the sill every morning, though the street outside stayed dry. Said she started leaving her handprints on the fog, just to prove she was still there. If you press your nose to the glass, you may feel it cool against your skin. You may hear the faint roll of thunder beyond it, even though the stars above you don't blink. Here's my advice: don't lick the droplets. Don't open it too wide. Don't lean out to find the clouds. And if, when you wake, your fingertips smell faintly of rain and the window is slick with water you never saw fall, you were closer to the storm than you thought. Good night. Sleep dry. 39. The clock that only counts backward. A stately wall clock whose hands move steadily but always towards something you already left behind. A drowsy little riddle for you. It ticks but never tocks. It runs but never forward, and yet it always knows when you're late. I noticed mine one evening when the rest of the room had grown quiet. At first, I thought I'd misread it, the hands inching backward, slowly but surely, as though returning to something it missed. Some say the clock that only counts backward is broken, or charmingly quaint, but others say it's keeping track of all the seconds you wished you'd kept every breath you regretted exhaling. I met a man who mounted his in a glass case. Said he couldn't stop watching it. Said he swore he'd seen it reach the moment he was born and then pause, as though daring him to blink. If you sit before it long enough, you may feel your own breath start to sink with its motion. You may notice the room grow cooler, the shadows longer, as though they too are unspooling. Here's my advice: don't try to stop it. Don't wind it. Don't ask it what it's waiting for. And if, when you wake, the sun seems lower than it should, and your watch has no numbers left at all, you've caught up to yourself. Good night. Sleep forward. 40. The chair that faces away. A quiet little seat that is always turned just slightly, wrong as though something just stood up from it. A weary rhyme for a weary room. It waits for you but looks away. It knows you're there but won't obey. The first time you notice it, it seems harmless enough, just a chair angled toward the corner, instead of the table. But no matter how many times you straighten it, it slides back, a few inches at a time, always watching the wall. Some say the chair that faces away is nothing, just uneven legs on a tired floor. But others say it's making space for someone who already left, and just hasn't finished sitting yet. I met a man who tried to nail his down, said every morning it had moved a little farther away, said one morning it was pressed flush to the corner, trembling. If you sit in it, you may feel it lean subtly away from you. You may feel the faintest warmth at your back. You may even hear a quiet breath in the cushion that isn't yours. Here's my advice: don't sit in it after dark. Don't turn it to face the room. Don't ask it who it's waiting for. And if when you wake the chair is closer to your bed, facing the wall but whispering faintly, don't answer. Good night. Sleep unseated. 41. The mirror that grows taller every night. A simple sheet of glass that stretches, ever so slightly, while you sleep until it seems to watch you from above. A soft little verse, fogging in the dark. It grows to fit what you've outgrown. It climbs until you're not alone. It seemed ordinary enough when I hung it heavy, a little scratched, perfectly my height. But after a week, it didn't look quite right. The frame was higher, the top edge loomed, and when I stood before it, my reflection seemed to peer down at me. Some say the mirror that grows taller. Every night is just a trick of the mind, the ceiling shrinking, your perspective slipping. But others say it's adjusting to something in you you've yet to meet. I met a woman who said hers rose so high she could no longer see her own face. Said something else began peeking down at her from its upper corners. If you measure it, and you shouldn't, you may find the tape comes back different each time. If you touch the top edge, you may feel it pulse, warm and faintly alive. Here's my advice: don't stand too close. Don't crane your neck. Don't try to see what's above your head. And if when you wake you find yourself gazing upward at a shape you don't quite recognize, look down. Good night. Sleep small. 42. The door that closes itself. A plain wooden door that seems perfectly obedient until it quietly decides you've stayed long enough. A slow little rhyme for the closing hush. It waits for quiet, then it moves. It swings not fast, but just enough. At first, you think it's nothing, the house settling, the wind. You leave it ajar and hear the faintest click behind you a few moments later. But then it does it again, and again, and again. Some say the door that closes itself is just a draft, but others say it knows who you are and what you've brought in with you, and when it's time for you to go. I met a man who tried propping his with a chair. Said the chair slid away on its own one night. Said the sound of the latch woke him like a hand on his shoulder. If you stand near it and watch, you may feel the air grow heavy. You may hear something breathing faintly on the other side. You may even see the smallest shadow slip through just before it shuts. Here's my advice: don't hold it open. Don't wedge anything under it. Don't ask what happens when it locks. And if when you wake the door is sealed, and the handle won't turn, and something cool and quiet is leaning against the other side, stay in bed. Good night. Sleep inside. 43. The blanket that whispers names a soft, heavy coverlet that, as you drift off, seems to murmur things into the dark names you almost recognize it. A hushed little rhyme for hushed little words. Thread by thread it sings your sleep. Name by name it promises to keep. At first, it seems impossible. The faint sounds are no more than fabric shifting, a breeze you can't feel. But if you lie still, very still, and listen, you'll hear them. Names, one by one, spoken so softly they barely reach you. Some say the blanket that whispers names is nothing more than a trick of the ears. But others say it keeps a record, that every night it lists all those who've lain beneath it and a few who haven't yet. I met a woman who claimed she heard her own name whispered back to her, but not in her voice. If you press your ear to the fabric, you may feel it pulse faintly against your cheek. You may hear names you didn't know you'd forgotten. You may even hear a name you've never learned. Yet. Here's my advice: don't answer. Don't repeat what it says. Don't try to write them down. And if, when you wake, the blanket is warm at your ear and the name lingering on your tongue isn't yours, don't say it aloud. Good night. Sleep unnamed. 44. The candle that melts upward. A slender stick of wax that burns dutifully, yet somehow grows taller the longer it burns, as though feeding on something unseen. A drowsy little verse for an inverted flame. Wax climbs, flame falls, and nothing at all makes sense at all. It was given to me wrapped in paper pale ivory, smelling faintly of honey and ash. I lit it, expecting nothing more than a little light. But instead of shrinking, the wax crept higher. Minute by minute, the flame lowered and the candle grew, as though swallowing the dark into itself. Some say the candle that melts upward is just a clever trick, but others say it's a collector gathering what it burns, rather than losing it. I met a man who said his grew so tall it toppled and shattered. Said the shards kept smoking long after he swept them away. If you stare into the flame long enough, you may notice the wax shimmering faintly, like breath on glass. You may hear something soft and low humming from the wick. Here's my advice: don't let it grow taller than your arm. Don't light it alone. And don't, whatever you do, try to snuff it out by hand. And if when you wake you find the ceiling stained with pale wax, and the candle standing taller than the bedpost, faintly warm and humming, it's still growing. Good night, sleep beneath. 45. The mirror that keeps your breath. A sheet of glass that fogs when you sigh but never quite clears again, as though it's holding something for you. A quiet rhyme to miss the glass. You breathe, it holds. You leave, it stays. And so it waits, through nights and days. I first noticed it after a hot shower, the faint shape of my breath lingering long after the room had gone cold. A handprint here, a blur of lips there, all faint but stubborn. Some say the mirror that keeps your breath is just dirt, or scratches, or tricks of light. But others say it's more that the glass remembers you every time you fog it, a little more each time, or each. I met a woman who kept hers covered. Said it had begun to show shapes she didn't recognize. Said once she saw her own breath written there before she even exhaled. If you watch it long enough, you may see faint words form in the haze, names you don't remember saying, or promises you never meant to keep. Here's my advice: don't press your face too close. Don't write your name on it. Don't leave it uncovered overnight. And if, when you wake, the mirror is fully clouded, and a faint warmth clings to the glass, as though someone's still breathing there, don't wipe it away. Good night, sleep clear. 46. The door with too many hinges. A tall, thin door that groans as it opens, not because it's heavy, but because its hinges seem to multiply as you watch. A weary little rhyme to count by. 1, 2, 3, 4 more. Each hinge another secret door. It looked ordinary enough when I found it painted white. A brass knob. Nothing remarkable. But when I pulled it open, it groaned low and long. And I noticed not 2 hinges, not 3, not 4, not dozens. Each one faintly gleaming, faintly breathing. Some say the door with too many hinges is just an odd bit of carpentry, but others say it's been repaired too many times, and each repair leaves behind a piece of whatever opened it last. I met a man who claimed he counted 76 before he stopped. Said they moved while he slept. Said one night he woke to the sound of them all creaking at once. If you lean close, you may see faint scratches around each hinge, little marks, like teeth or nails. If you listen carefully, you might hear them clicking softly, in their own quiet rhythm. Here's my advice: don't touch them, don't count aloud, don't oil them. And if, when you wake, the hinges have multiplied to the ceiling, and the door seems to breathe when you pass, walk faster, Good night. Sleep elsewhere. 47. The candle that drips backward. A little wax taper that weeps its own tears back up toward the flame, as though undoing its own burning. A faint, strange verse to watch it by. It melts, it climbs, it bites its wick, and nothing burns except the tick. It starts normally enough, a soft glow, a gentle scent of honey and salt. But after a minute you notice the wax creeping upward. Drop by drop, it climbs back to the flame. Some say the candle that drips backward is a clever trick, but others say it's trying to reverse something not just itself, but whatever's been watching it burn. I met a woman who kept hers in a glass box, said she let it burn for hours, and when she blew it out, the room felt older somehow, as though time had knotted itself tighter. If you stare long enough, you may see shapes in the rising wax, tiny claws, a faint smile, something curling toward you. Here's my advice, don't light it while you're alone. Don't let it burn all the way back to the top, and don't under any circumstances touch the wax when it reaches the wick. And if, when you wake, the air smells faintly of iron, and the candle sits on the table whole again, faintly warm to the touch, it isn't finished. Good night. Sleep melted. 48. The bed that rocks without you. A quiet, low bed that sways gently in the night, as though cradling someone even when you're standing at the door. A drowsy rhyme for a restless frame. It sways, it hums, it sighs, it waits, it rocks itself behind the gates. It was already moving when I first saw it, just a faint motion, side to side, slow and even, like breath. Some say the bed that rocks without you is nothing uneven legs, old floors, but others say it's remembering someone who never quite left. I met a man who slept on the floor beside his for years. Said he couldn't bear to lie in it once he noticed the rhythm didn't match his own. If you stand close enough, you may feel the faintest push of air. You may hear a low creak in the frame, like laughter too tired to finish. You may even see the sheets dip as though someone just settled in. Here's my advice, don't lie down if you feel it sway. Don't try to stop it, and don't watch the pillows too long. And if, when you wake, you find yourself tucked in tighter than you remember, and the bed still rocking faintly under you, don't open your eyes. Good night, sleep still. 49. The clock that only moves when you look away. A heavy old timepiece that sits silent when you watch it, but the second you blink, it leaps ahead, a murmured verse to tick in the dark. You stare, it waits, you turn, it runs. You never quite catch what it's done. At first, it seems ordinary. It sits there, weighty and patient, the hands just still. But if you turn away just for a moment, you'll hear it. A faint little jump. Some say the clock that only moves when you look away is broken. But others say it doesn't count your time, it counts your attention. And it hates being caught. I met a woman who swore hers skipped whole hours when she turned her back. Said she taped a mirror to the wall just to keep it honest. If you watch closely, you may notice the hands quiver ever so slightly, like they're waiting for you to blink. If you press your ear to the case, you may hear the tick hiding behind your breath. Here's my advice, don't stare too long, don't turn too fast, and don't, whatever you do, let it catch you asleep. And if when you wake the clock is hours ahead, and the air smells faintly of dust and copper, it's already moved. Good night, sleep now. 50. The mirror that smiles first. A tall, thin mirror that greets you politely with your own grin. Just a second before you've chosen to give it one. A quiet, crooking little verse. It waits. It watches. It knows the cue. It smiles before you think to. It seems harmless at first, a normal sheet of glass. A bit spotted around the edges, leaning at just the right angle to catch you walking by. But one night when you're tired and not paying attention, you'll notice its smile comes first. Some say the mirror that smiles first is just nerves, your tired mind playing tricks. But others say it's not quite a reflection at all, that something on the other side has been practicing for you, waiting for the chance. I met a man who covered his with a sheet. Said one night he caught it smiling even as he wept. If you dare, you can watch it long enough to see it twitch just faintly at the corners of the mouth. You may see its eyes glint darker than yours. You may even see its fingers move before yours do. Here's my advice, don't grin back. Don't speak to it. Don't stay in the room too long. And if when you wake your cheeks ache faintly, and your pillow smells of something faintly metallic, you smiled anyway. Good night. Sleep straight-faced. 51. The candle that flickers without wind. A fragile little flame that dances wildly, even when the air around it is still and heavy. A drowsy rhyme for a restless wick. No draught, no breath, no storm outside, yet here it sways, as though it's alive. I lit mine on a summer night, when even the walls seemed too tired to move, and yet the flame shivered, leapt, curled to one side, as though pulled by some invisible hand. Some say the candle that flickers without wind is nothing but a faulty wick, but others say something unseen keeps testing it, something trying to catch your eye without being caught. I met a woman who swore her candle once bent so far it almost brushed the table, then snapped upright when she blinked. If you lean close, you may feel a faint chill just beyond the heat. You may hear it hiss, not at you, but at something behind you. Here's my advice, don't try to shield it. Don't cup your hands around it. And don't ask what it sees that you can't. And if when you wake the air smells faintly of smoke, and your curtains quiver, though the window stays closed, it's still watching. Good night, sleep steady. 52. The door that leads somewhere new. Each time a plain wooden door that opens politely, but never to the same place twice. A slow, strange rhyme for you. It swings, it sighs, it shifts, it hides, it never quite decides. It looked ordinary the first time I opened it. Just a closet? Really. Coats. Boxes. Dust. But the next night, when I reached for it again, a staircase wound down into silence. Some say the door that leads somewhere new. Each time is a dream you forgot to finish, but others say it's just doing what doors wish they could, getting bored of where they are. I met a man who kept a diary of the places it showed him. Said the 15th time he opened it, he recognized the sound of his own voice calling from the other side. If you're brave enough to open it twice in a row, you may feel the knob tremble before it turns. You may smell something you almost remember. You may see yourself walking away down a hall you've never walked before. Here's my advice, don't step through more than once a night. Don't close it too quickly. And don't, whatever you do, turn around once you're through. And if, when you wake, the door is cracked an inch, and the air in the room smells faintly of dust and rain, you stepped somewhere. Good night, sleep here. 53. The clock that stops when you speak. A delicate little timepiece that ticks happily until you open your mouth, and the whole room holds its breath. A whisper-thin rhyme to hush you. Tick, 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 then hush. Your voice is too much. It was sitting on a shelf when I found it. Brass, small, innocent, and alive in its quiet way. But when I spoke just a greeting, the ticking stopped. Some say the clock that stops when you speak is a trick of nerves, your own breath drowning it out, but others say it listens, and that it needs your silence to keep counting. I met a woman who claimed she spent whole nights holding her tongue, just to hear it move. She said she swore she could hear it sigh when she finally whispered. If you dare to test it, you might hear the air grow heavy when you speak. You might see the hands quiver impatiently, like they're waiting for you to finish. Here's my advice: don't talk too long. Don't ask it questions. Don't sing. And if when you wake your throat feels dry, and the clock sits quietly at the foot of your bed, it's still waiting for you to hush. Good night, sleep silent. 54. The mirror that tilts when you look away. A tall, thin mirror that leans ever so slightly each time your eyes leave it, as though trying to see around you. A quiet little rhyme to hold you still. When you're here, it waits. When you turn, it breathes. When you blink, it leans. It stood in the corner of a guest room, dusty but dignified, framed in something dark and cracked. I thought nothing of it until I caught it slanting just a hair to the left when I turned away. Some say the mirror that tilts when you look away is just poor balance on a crooked floor. But others say it's trying to find the angle where it finally sees you properly. I met a man who covered his with a sheet. Said he could still hear it scrape faintly against the wall at night. If you dare to glance sideways at it, you may notice your reflection takes longer than you to straighten. You may hear the faintest sigh, or see the shadow of your own hand move before you lift it. Here's my advice: don't turn your back. Don't wink at it. Don't sit too close. And if when you wake the mirror is pressed flush to the bed frame, its edge just touching your pillow, don't open your eyes. Good night, sleep level. 55. The candle that burns without fire. A pale little candle whose wick never lights, yet still it melts. Slow and certain, as though consumed by something colder than flame. A soft, strange rhyme to quiet the dark. It glows without heat, it weeps without light, and still you watch it all night. At first you think it's simply old, a bit damp, perhaps, the kind that won't take a match. But still the wax begins to sag, the sides shimmer faintly, and by morning it's half gone. Some say the candle that burns without fire is a trick of moisture, or a draught that kisses it into nothing. But others say it feeds on something invisible, your breath, perhaps, or the quiet seconds you didn't mean to waste. Quiet. I met a woman who carried hers everywhere. Said it kept her safe at night. Said it whispered her name when no one else could. If you hover your hand above it, you won't feel heat, but you may feel a cool pull, like a soft wind spiraling upward from the wick. Here's my advice: don't try to light it. Don't mark how much it melts each hour. And don't, whatever you do, watch it all the way to the end. And if when you wake your fingers are cold and damp, and the air smells faintly of wax and salt, it's still burning. Good night, sleep bright. 56. The chair that rocks in time with your heart. A creaky little rocker that moves on its own in perfect rhythm to the pulse you wish you couldn't feel. A quiet little couplet for a quiet little sway. Creak and thump, thump and creak. The chair knows what you dare not speak. At first you think it's just the wind, a lazy sway, barely noticeable at all. But then you notice the rhythm matches your own. Creak when you inhale, creak when you exhale, creak when your pulse jumps just slightly at the thought of it. Some say the chair that rocks in time with your heart is just coincidence, but others say it sinks on purpose to measure you, to memorize you, to know when you finally stop. I met a man who said his wouldn't stop rocking, even after he held his breath for a full minute. Said it creaked louder, almost impatient, as though calling him back. If you sit in it, you might feel it shiver under you, matching you beat for beat, like a soft, unseen metronome. Here's my advice: don't try to outpace it. Don't sit too long. And don't, for heaven's sake, stop breathing. And if when you wake, the chair is pressed closer to your bed, still creaking softly, matching the flutter in your chest, don't move! Good night, sleep still. 57. The mirror that breathes when you don't. A tall sheet of glass that fogs faintly, but only when your lungs have gone quiet. A drowsy little verse to fog the pain. You stop. It starts. You wait. It exhales. It was leaning against a cracked wall in a forgotten room when I first saw it. Dusty, dull. But then I held my breath just for a moment, and the glass fogged over. Some say the mirror that breathes. When you don't is nothing, just your own warmth bouncing back at you, a trick of nerves, but others say it's holding something for you. A heartbeat you set down long ago. I met a woman who said hers would fog into faint words when she stayed still enough. Names, dates, a laugh she swore she never made. If you press your hand to it, you might feel it pulse faintly under your fingers. If you listen, really listen, you might hear a faint sigh on the other side. Here's my advice: don't hold your breath too long. Don't try to match it. Don't wait to see what it writes next. And if when you wake the mirror is slick with condensation, and you taste cold air in your mouth though the room is warm, it was breathing for you. Good night, sleep steady. 58. The door that hums when it's locked. A plain wooden door with a quiet little hum that rises faintly the moment the key turns. A weary little rhyme to hush it. It hums, it waits, it sings through the seam. You lock it to sleep, but it wakes to dream. It stood at the end of a narrow hallway, just another door. I turned the key, heard the bolt slide into place, and that's when it began. A low hum, like bees, or a faint voice humming through clenched teeth. Some say the door that hums when it's locked is nothing, just wood swelling, the whisper of air, but others say it's grateful, that it only sings when it's sure you can't come in. I met a man who said his wouldn't stop humming for days, said the tune began to change, said he could almost make out words near the end. If you lean close, you might feel the vibrations steady, warm, unsettling. If you close your eyes, you may hear a second hum underneath, lower, slower, older. Here's my advice: don't unlock it just to make it stop. Don't knock. Don't hum back. And if when you wake the door is warm to the touch, and the tune still lingers faintly in your head, leave it. Good night, sleep unlocked. 59. The candle that knows your name. A pale stub of wax that whispers softly when lit, and the first word it says is always your name. A drowsy verse to quiet the flame. It burns. It breathes. It murmurs low. It speaks what you don't want to know. I found mine in a dusty drawer, wrapped in linen that smelled of cedar and rain. When I lit it, the room brightened, and then I heard it. My name, soft, like a sigh, clear, like someone who's been practicing for years. Some say the candle that knows your name is a trick, a parlour game, a superstition. But others say it's been carrying your name long before you learned it yourself. I met a woman who claimed hers spoke her name all night, said by morning she didn't recognise how it sounded anymore. If you lean in too close, you may hear more middle names you never knew you had, places you've never been, things you've never done, yet. Here's my advice, don't answer. Don't ask it to repeat itself. Don't ask whose voice it borrowed. And if when you wake your pillow smells faintly of wax, and the room feels crowded though you're alone, it's still speaking. Good night, sleep nameless. 60. The clock that dreams. A delicate little timepiece that ticks unevenly faster when you're asleep, slower when you're awake, as though lost in its own reverie. A quiet little rhyme to rock it to sleep. It ticks and turns while you lie still. It dreams until it's had its fill. It sat on my nightstand like any other clock, but after a few nights, I noticed its rhythm. At first, sharp and steady while I lay awake, but the moment my eyes shut, the ticking grew frantic, wild and bright as though it had somewhere else to be. Some say the clock that dreams is just a quirk of bad gears, but others say it borrows your sleep to have adventures of its own and gives back only what's left. I met a man who kept his under a glass dome, said he saw faint mist gather inside while he slept, said one morning he found it stopped entirely, and his dreams were too vivid to bear. If you hold it close to your ear, you may hear faint whispers between ticks like tiny feet running over tile. You may even feel it pulse once, like a soft heartbeat. Here's my advice, don't wind it too tightly. Don't sleep too close to it. And don't try to catch it mid-dream. And if when you wake the clock is warm to the touch, and your sheets are damp with fog you can't explain, it dreamt without you. Good night, sleep waking.